Welcome to official episode one of the Pickups Plus Cars Driven Conversations podcast. We had episode 0 last week, so.
Yeah, it's officially official.
Officially official. Well, this will be probably 2 weeks for you guys. It's a week for us since it came out. But we've appreciated all of the feedback and the excitement around it. We know it's not the biggest podcast ever, but
we haven't hit. What is the biggest podcast ever? Do you know?
Probably Joe Rogan.
Rogan
To get the money he did from Spotify.
How many is he? How many followers is he at now?
I don't know.
We got a lot of work to do, nonetheless.
Yeah, but hey, some is better than none, and we appreciate you guys for tuning in and listening and watching. You
got to start somewhere.
Yeah, watching 40 minutes of us doing whatever we were doing. But
just talking, rambling.
Yeah.
Recapping 2024. Which, there's you look back and you watch those and you're like, oh, there's a lot of other things that we missed, but there's just not enough time to get it all in there.
Yeah. Yeah, Rogan has 14.5 million followers.
14.5 million
on Spotify as of March of last year.
That's pretty impressive. 14.5 million.
His YouTube has 16.4 million. So we're coming for you, Joe.
I think he's probably not worried. He's probably not sweating.
No, not at all.
Oh well, man, a lot's happened actually since the last. Since the last time we did this.
Yeah, something big happened for you, not for me.
A lot of big things happened for me. I had a birthday.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
I got some pretty cool birthday presents.
Good.
Ohio State's national championship ranks up there pretty good.
Yeah.
Obviously, Trump's in office now, so we're kind of turning the page and see what 2025 has to offer. And I think one of the things we were going to talk about is some of the is it executive orders? Is that what we're calling them?
Yeah.
That he has already signed on his first day. Some of those have to do with the automotive industry directly, and some in a roundabout way. So I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's a lot of change, a lot of fast. So it should hopefully be good. We'll see, where all of it goes. We've got 4 more years. We're 2 days in now, so.
Just keep thinking drill, baby, drill.
Yeah.
Which, for guys that like engines that require fuel, that's probably a pretty good thing.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see what all that entails. If that's drilling in national parks or stuff like that. I'm curious to see if that's something he's going to do, or if that's just stuff that people are fear-mongering, saying he's going to do this, and it's not really his plan.
I know I went to bed last night. When I pulled in the garage, it was like -4 on the vehicle dash.
Yeah.
And so I'm guessing that anybody that is just all electric and not open to other things. When I woke up this morning, it was like -9.
Yeah.
They're probably excited about their fossil fuel that they're using to keep warm, because in situations like today, electricity just doesn't get it.
No.
I had an all-electric heat system in this house before we upgraded, and I'm telling you what, it was
struggling.
It wasn't happening.
Yeah, my intake air temps were at 0 degrees, and that's
just means more horsepower, right?
That's already through the engine bay. In the hot engine bay, it's 0 degrees. I saw JDP3, his was a -9 intake air temp.
I saw that.
It's cold. Florida got all that snow.
Yeah.
You see that?
Yeah, global warming at its finest, man.
The beach
I saw that.
in snow. It's crazy.
It is wild.
Yeah.
There are some wild things happening.
Yeah.
Maybe government weather machine hard at work.
Who knows? Snow in Florida. California's on fire. Everything's crazy.
Yep.
And it's just cold here.
It is cold here right now.
But
just means we've got spring to look forward to.
Absolutely.
Warm weather.
I'm very much looking forward to that.
So,
car show season, all that good stuff. I'm itching for it.
It's coming. Yeah, car show season is coming.
Yeah, I've it's gotten to the point where I'm starting to watch YouTube videos of shows I went to last year.
Okay.
Because I like just
a little recap.
I want to go back. I'm tired of the cold.
Just reliving them.
Yep.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to make it to more shows this year. We'll see. Last several years, it's tough. You have 1,000 things going on. Enjoy it while you can.
Right.
Have a family. You get pulled 1,000 different directions.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, so we had a couple topics we wanted to hit today. Obviously, Ohio State's championship. Thinking about we recapped last time the just 2024 and a lot of the jobs that we did, and one of the important things that kind of stands out to me is just how great of a team that we have. Ohio State, if you guys have followed them at all this year, they obviously went through some adversity, lost a couple of close ones, lost to your team, unfortunately, again. But, that just, they learned, and losses a lot of times can be just empty losses, or they can be lessons. And as a guy that, I coach a lot, you coach, you start to learn, that there's just as much to learn in losses as there is in winning, and sometimes more. And that works the same way in business. That works on, we're working on our vehicle and we make a mistake. We want to try something to find something out.
Yep.
And car guys, they're all about pushing the envelope, if you will, to try to get things to work, whether it's look, function, more power. And that's one cool thing that, at PPC that we are able to do is tap into that experience, all the years of doing a bunch of stuff across a bunch of different platforms. We're able to learn and figure out what works and save people some headaches. But, thinking about our team and how great of a team that we have, at PPC, we couldn't do it without those guys. Obviously, adding you and your skill set, with the social media and stuff like that is just a huge part of having a good team and being able to achieve things bigger than just yourself, as one.
Absolutely.
I thought, if you haven't had a chance, go out and just YouTube some of the interviews from Ohio State's players, listen to their message. They have an awesome message, and how they, as a core group, really centered themselves around their faith and their belief in God, and how that was gonna be the difference maker for them. And I think ultimately they achieved what they wanted to achieve. They got a bigger message out there than just football. And that was really cool to see this day and age.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, having a good team is important for success, but not just a good team, but having a team that works well together.
Yeah.
We've got a good team that works well together and enjoys being around each other for the most part,
right?
And works together for the common goal of making sure that our customers are taken care of and doing the best we can for them.
Yeah. Yeah, and knowing the times to kind of come together and talk through things. And, one of the things that stood out was something that G. Scott said in his interview, which was, I may catch 6 passes, I may score a touchdown, I may catch 2 passes, I may catch none, but I block for somebody and spring a big play. And being able to appreciate and enjoy that moment, whether you're the one that's getting spotlighted or you're the one in the background watching somebody else get spotlighted, but you knew you were a part of that, and actually enjoying that sometimes even more so, is really cool. Like, a lot of our guys don't get enough credit on the back end because, they're behind the scenes. You think about, football specifically, linemen. Linemen never get any credit. Offensive linemen never get any credit. But really, without them, just about nothing would happen.
Right.
Good.
Yeah.
For your offense.
Yeah.
So, I think that plays well in life, and obviously in business. There's people that get they're in different positions. Maybe the salesperson in the sales position gets the accolades, and but you got a guy that's constantly keeping the shop clean and keeping the work areas nice, so everybody can function, and he's not necessarily getting spotlighted. So it's cool to see, for us, that we have such an awesome team of guys that really enjoy what they're doing. Like you said, they enjoy working together, have fun together, and we're blessed and thankful to have the team that we have, and have those guys around.
Absolutely. So we had a couple topics.
We did. Is this where we do the long pause? I think we had this.
Yeah, we had one. You got a phone call or something
last time,
and then we went about another 15 minutes, and the camera died.
We had a couple topics we were going to hit. I don't know, where do you want to start?
Say there's stuff all over the place. Say right at the top there with the TikTok and all that. And
yeah, TikTok's a little foreign to me, so that's going to probably be you talking more. I'll throw my 2 cents in that probably doesn't really mean anything.
Yeah. Well, one thing that has been interesting over it's been around for 5-6 years now, is the automotive niches that have established themselves on the platform.
Is it niches or niches?
I say niche.
Niche?
Tomato.
Niche wheels or niche wheels?
Niche. Niche.
Niche.
Not sure? Oh, okay.
I say it how I say it.
You guys let us know.
Yeah.
Niche or niche?
Yeah. But those groups in communities, there's been an influx of people that like cars but don't know a ton about them.
For sure.
Which has been interesting to see. Car culture went from just being car culture to being a part of like pop culture in a way that it hasn't been. Cool cars and exotics, Ferraris have always been a part of pop culture, but it was like Infiniti G30s and like, Nissan Z's and, Volkswagens, like all of those kind of became like uber popular cars for like 20 somethings. And it just got really big out of nowhere.
Do you feel like there's been a big push, maybe a silent push, but like a societal push to somewhat kill the car culture? For whatever reason, maybe, and we'll get into this a little bit later, but maybe for, purposes of, we're trying to protect the environment.
I think there's a lot of factors at play. I think that there's been the silly takeover scene has kind of ruined a lot of people. That's all they think that the car community is a bunch of people that are stealing cars and doing donuts in intersections and street racing with them. Like, that's what a lot of people think is car culture, and it's not. But then, like you said too, like the emissions piece and the EPA coming in and trying to kill grassroots racing, and then with that, the racetracks that we have, the land around it is getting bought out,
right? And
then people are moving in and who move next to a racetrack. And the racetrack is loud. You move next to a racetrack,
right? You should have known that before you moved.
Yeah, so there's a lot of factors at play trying to seemingly kill that, but
I would love for somebody to investigate the root cause of this so we can stamp it out.
Yeah, I mean, there's, like I said, there's too many. Like it's just
there's and I don't know what drives this, but there's obviously been some great movies that help propel car culture into different areas. Just thinking back, like, growing up for me, Gone in 60 Seconds was an awesome movie. Yeah. That's a movie that kind of maybe puts a bad light on the car culture, as in, hey, I've got to steal all these cars.
Right.
But, the flip side and the positive of that was there was a specific list of cars that they had to get.
Yep.
And those cars were coming from people that, like you and I, that are collectors, that are passionate about, their car, and they wanted that specific car, which is why somebody else wanted those cars.
Right.
And then you think about my son, growing up with the Cars movies. That was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Very well put together. And then the obvious, the Fast and
Yeah, I
Furious.
was waiting for that one.
Yeah.
starting as a car movie, ending as who knows what it's turned into.
Right.
Rocket Pontiac Fieros. They're just doing whatever they want.
Yeah,
at this
I mean,
point.
when you can get to outer space in a car, like, the world has changed.
Yeah.
But, just thinking about the car culture, what does that mean? And that's, a topic that we could go on and on and
Right.
on for, because
Yeah.
it's different for different people.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you got grip racing in the mountains. You got drifting. They're doing drifting in the mountains. You
Yep.
got NASCAR, you drag racing, Formula 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. You got IndyCar. You got dirt track racing. You got
Autocross.
motocross. You got autocross. You
Yep.
got rallycross. Like,
You have the purists that just go to shows. Everything's got to be all original. If not, it's counted off, and
Right.
you're
Not even motorsports
crazy. I can't
related.
believe you. Yeah, it's.
yeah.
But there's literally something for everybody.
Yeah, the stance community, that's probably one that I've seen grow the most with the social media boom. That's
Yeah.
probably been the biggest one that's tied to social media, has been the stance.
Yeah, for sure.
Slammed cars on tilty wheels.
But, it's just all about pushing boundaries, right?
Yeah.
Like, at the end of the day, they did it because they could do it.
Yep.
And
They thought it looked cool.
Thought it looked cool.
Yep.
It's, and I, thinking back, like, there were movies that were before my time, thinking about Steve McQueen and some of the movies that he was in, centered around a lot of cars. And, that kind of pushed that American muscle,
Right.
energy. A lot of guys wanted the Mustangs, and, thinking about Smokey and the Bandit, Knight Rider, being a show, Dukes of Hazzard. There was just all these things in the American culture that kind of pushed the automobile in a cool way.
Yeah.
Which is really neat, because not everybody maybe aligned with one show versus
Right.
the other.
Yeah.
Thinking about the A-Team. I don't know if you've ever seen the A-Team.
Yep.
The van.
panel van.
The panel van was awesome.
Big red stripe and a spoiler on the back.
Yep.
Yep.
But just what drives the car culture, and then ultimately what is the goal, and everybody's goal is different. It's a hobby for a lot of people. It's a way of life for others.
Right.
Obviously it creates our living.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's a cool topic.
Yeah.
So anyway, back to TikTok.
Okay.
So TikTok obviously has been in the news a lot lately, with kind of being banned and then being turned back on, and I'm not real sure where we're at now.
Yeah.
We're back on and we're good, but we're looking for an American buyer to buy TikTok.
Yeah. Yeah, I think from what I read on one of these mandates, it says Trump was trying to give him 75 days. He's ordered the attorney general to not take any action to enforce it for 75 days.
Okay, so we're kind of on like you can use it, but we're working through this right now.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. Like, will they even want to sell? Are they just going to do the same thing they did and kind of juke it out and,
Just see where it lands.
Yeah. Because, it's a multi-million-dollar business, if not a billion-dollar business. So it's a weird, there's a lot going on behind the scenes that, because it's not a publicly traded company, it's all privately owned. So it's a lot that's kind of unknown with that.
My question is, why can't somebody just create a TikTok knockoff?
Well, it's the algorithm piece. So we've seen Instagram has made Reels, YouTube's made Shorts, Facebook has Reels too. They don't quite have the same algorithm to show content to users.
Okay.
And I noticed that myself after I got banned. I was on Reels, kind of familiarizing myself with that and trying to get their algorithm to kind of feed me similar to what I had on TikTok. I realized I've probably got 20 to 25 different niches on TikTok that are being fed to me. Instagram, there might be about 5 that it's feeding to me. And some of that has to do with, on Instagram, I've had a profile for so long. It's centered around all automotive stuff and a few sports things and then people I know. So most of what I'm seeing is automotive, some sports, and then occasional kind of comedy stuff. TikTok was feeding me sports for motorsports, football, basketball.
Ohio State Buckeyes, obviously.
I'm making fun of them, yes.
Oh, come on, man.
I mean, that's what's showing up. But, well, in niches surrounding certain teams, certain, like, sports, there's different niches within those. There's analysts. There's people just making highlight reels. There's people making cool edits.
Right.
So, like, I'm getting niches within niches on TikTok that I haven't quite found on some other platforms. And then also, TikTok has done well to feed me fairly bipartisan news that I've struggled to find elsewhere. It does exist on other platforms, but it seems like I'm pretty consistently getting news that I'm like, okay, this is just the news. There's no opinion piece in this.
That's one thing that I had heard, that TikTok is, it's just kind of all out there, where if anybody watched or listened to the Rogan interview with Zuckerberg, I think he pretty much came full circle and admitted that he was suppressing a lot of things because of pressure from within our government. So that is not that it's great. There's concerns obviously with TikTok, spamming American people's information. What are they using it for? And yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
But I mean, directly related to that, what's going to happen with that. And a lot of people use that, whether it be just for fun daily, or for their business. How is that going to affect that? And then kind of looking at the next executive order that we kind of talked about, that was a big one, is ending the mandate that was put in place by the Biden administration with the EVs, and what people think about that. I think most of the people that I talk to aren't necessarily against EVs. It's just one of those things that people want choices. They don't want to be forced into something that they had no decision.
Absolutely. And I think our auto manufacturers were in some ways hurried up into releasing EVs, trying to get their EV credits, buying them from Tesla so they wouldn't get fined. Like, I think a lot of it came on way too fast. And then obviously we've seen as well the lack of infrastructure for some of the EV charging, the issues from a plethora of different auto manufacturers with the EV vehicles themselves, let alone just the fact that and a lot of them are kind of subpar because they've been rushed to market. I watched a video last night about Volkswagen and their issues with their EVs is because they wanted to build all their own software like Tesla. And they rushed it, and they had to delay their combustion vehicles because they wanted that same software in the combustion vehicles. It's like their Golf globally was delayed a year because they were trying to rush the software to market.
Yeah, for sure.
Whether that was here in the States or elsewhere, like, it's been pushed really too fast for a lot of manufacturers, but they've also had to hurry up. It was surrounding BYD, the electric vehicle manufacturer in China. They've gotten a lot of money from China, and because of that, they've moved really fast to usurp Tesla in China. So, like, there's a lot of really weird stuff around EVs that, like, global governments are each trying to do different things.
I always encourage people to ask why. Because if you just go along with it and it seems great on the surface, hey, we're going all electric, it's better for the environment. Okay, why? Give me a checklist of what's better. And as you start to sort through a lot of that stuff, you kind of realize that on the surface level, it can be better, but once you start looking at whether it's production, of it, and there's been a lot of reports out there that show that the production of an EV vehicle from basically its infancy or non-existent to its infancy, and to its lifespan, end of its lifespan, is actually less efficient and more harmful to the environment than a gas vehicle, a vehicle that's using some sort of petroleum. But that can be debated. It's going to continue to be debated. Right. I think at the end of the day, there's a space for electric vehicles. You think about like the go-karts that are out there, the electric go-karts, especially for indoor purposes, are really, really impressive. Yeah. They're a lot of fun. But you go to any electric vehicle right now and taking a trip from Ohio to, say I want to go south, like it's just not practical. It's not realistic. Yep. The charge time to, you pull up to a pump and you fill up, it might take you 5 to 10 minutes tops to fill up, and you're back to, depending on the vehicle that you're in, 300 to 500 miles fuel range. Yep. You can't accomplish that with any sort of charging system right now. And even if you did, imagine the backup of all these people plugging in, and what's that doing to our already, taxed grid. Yeah. So I don't know. It's an interesting thing. I think anytime something's mandated like that, especially kind of out of the blue, because I think that mandate, in my opinion, came out of the blue somewhat. So for those of you that aren't familiar with it, that mandate said 50% of vehicles needed to be electric by 2030, which was really unrealistic. And then you had states like California that were pushing that even further and saying, things like it needed to be 100% in California. And so, it puts people in a bad position. If you're not ready to afford one, you can't afford an electric vehicle. You don't have access to charging. Yep.
And again, the manufacturer problem, like the video I was watching, the Volkswagen, they're pushing back to 2035 to really what their goals were. It was supposed to be like 2028. Yeah. Now it's supposed to be like 2035.
I think it was Volkswagen that just, it was maybe late third quarter, beginning of fourth quarter last year, said that they had just invested a huge amount of money into a new gas engine production facility, which is interesting.
A sign of the times.
It is a sign of the times. And I wonder, we kind of had this in our notes here. I wonder what will happen with Dodge, on bringing back the Hellcat and stuff like that, if they have any interest in doing that. Yeah.
I'm sure Dodge themselves does. My guess is Stellantis is the one telling them that this is where it's going to go. I bet if Dodge wanted to, they've already kept the Hellcat and all of that alive for so long, they probably would keep making that exact same platform for 10 more years.
It's the push for the global control, right? Yeah. But ultimately, the American buyers want what the American buyers want.
Yeah. Well, and I think the real switch for this more efficient electric motor type deal is hybrids. Yeah. Hybrids are where people who just want a car from A to B, like that's where it needs to be going. And then, Volkswagen partnered with Scout. Scout's coming back.
Yep, saw that.
And 50% of their pre-orders are for, forget what the trim level was called, but there's a 4-cylinder Volkswagen combustion motor in the back of the EV that's just a generator.
Okay.
And 50% of the pre-orders are for that. And there's a semi-truck company, Edison Motors, that's been working on this for the past few years. I actually found them on TikTok in 2020.
Interesting.
But they have diesel generators that run the electric motors. So the electric motors, you get the torque and, all of that instant power. But then with the diesel generator, you have that long range. So you get the best of both worlds. So it'll be interesting to see as auto manufacturers kind of realize pure EVs aren't practical for a big buyer base, whether that's commercial or personal. Hybrid, I think, is probably where we should have started to begin with.
We kind of
combustion will still be around, I think.
Yeah, we kind of did. I mean, there was a big push, and a lot of people maybe in the mainstream don't realize this. There was a big push for what that fuel source was going to be. Yes. Whether it was going to be propane or whether it was going to be natural gas, ethanol. That's a whole nother topic. You know, farmers obviously got involved in that, and the government wanted more production. It's one of those things that's interesting because you have all of these powers, you know, at play that are kind of fighting for control.
Everyone wants to make their money.
And that's back to the why, right? Like at the end of the day, from a government standpoint, if you're somebody sitting in the government and you're like, yeah, this is a great thing. Well, it's a great thing to you because if you're in position, you know, to capitalize on this whole new industry kind of starting, you know, your investments, so on and so forth. And, you know, I think you can look and say, okay, well, there's a lot of people that went in and now they're filthy rich.
Right.
And it's because of investments like that. But that shouldn't be what drives innovation, right?
Yep.
That's the beauty of America and how things work is you've got to kind of have this fight, you know, of ideas, and then it's got to get proven this worked, this didn't work. And there's winners and losers in that at times. And that's what makes pushing, you know, to be your best or to get the best product worth it at the end, you know. And I think that's why, you know, America for so long has been on top, because they're able to sort through that. They're taking ideas from all over the world. You know, people that come up with different ideas and are passionate about it, they're willing to put in the time and effort to sort it out and say, okay, yeah, this didn't work and it's got to go away and we got to try something different. Where with like a lot of these companies, they're getting so much money thrown at them. If it doesn't work, they don't care. You know, they'll just go burn somebody else's pile of cash, or walk away and take what's left and be like, oh, we bankrupt, which is why it's, you know, why it doesn't work and why a lot of the products we've gotten have been, you know, kind of garbage in that sector. So I guess the question, you know, as we're talking about the EV mandate being kind of overturned, what do you guys think's, you know, coming next? Are we going to see more, you know, gas vehicles coming out? Are we going to see, it sounds like they're going to lighten some of the EPA regulations. You know, diesel guys got just hit hard the last, you know, 10 years, maybe 15 years. You know, just can't do anything to the diesels. The diesel motor is phenomenal in terms of efficiency, power production. And, you know, I think about like over in Europe, they've got big body Mercedes-Benz, you know, that are heavy cars, you know, making 500-600 horsepower, no problem, getting 50 plus miles to the gallon. And
we've got small hatchbacks.
Yeah, we've never even tried here.
No. Well, some manufacturers have, and like there just isn't a market here because a lot of U.S. buyers associate the soot with bad. Yeah. And the reality is it's just visible. It's some of the same particulates are coming out of your gasoline motor. You just can't see it. So like, but a lot of U.S. buyers have seen that. They're coming out of cars and they're like, that's dirty. Diesels are associated with work trucks. So you see it coming out of a BMW sedan and you're like, that's gross. Like, the American buyer is an interesting buyer. Yeah. Yeah, I know BMW brought the 335D at one point. I wanted one. I was like a big powered diesel BMW.
Show me a picture of a 335D.
Would be pretty sweet. Yeah, I almost went to North Carolina to buy one instead of my Golf. And
interesting. How many did they import? Do you know?
I don't know, but I mean, it looks just like a normal 3 Series. Just happens to have
the diesel.
Yeah, a turbo inline-6 diesel that makes pretty good power. I know that a couple guys, they have the BMW X5 from the similar time frame that's diesel, and they've done a bunch of work to it, and they're big power. Nice. But again, they're the niche. Yep. So, yeah, it is a bummer, I think, that there's not more diesels in America that aren't just big trucks. Like,
you think about that, and like there's a whole conversation about the tax credits and, what you were talking about with the EV credits. And a lot of people maybe don't understand this, is, these manufacturers have to play the game that, the government has set up in terms of hitting certain levels. So they'll produce a lot of these cars that are more efficient so they can turn around and sell, a big truck makers. To make, their profit. Yep. So, it's interesting thinking about like the whole landscape really of the American auto market and what's going to happen over the next 4 years with tariffs. Yeah. Obviously ending the EV mandate, tariffs coming in for the foreign automakers and how that's going to affect buying habits or how customers buy,
what manufacturers sell.
Yep.
What ones that have built plants in the U.S. are they going to benefit tremendously from these tariffs? Like Honda's here in Marysville, they've already got a pretty good foothold, I feel like, in Central Ohio
for sure.
And so then if they manage to avoid, if there ends up being crazy tariffs, but they have a factory here, so Central Ohio may very well be even more Honda.
Yeah.
So where does that go with?
And then the whole back to the drill baby drill with the mandates, coming out on basically uncuffing oil production here in the U.S. And getting back to where we're not relying on, other areas for oil and stuff.
Yeah.
Is that going to drive fuel prices down again?
Right.
If that does, then how does that affect buying
everything?
Habits?
Right. The economy as a whole. Like, how does that affect? That puts more money in the pockets for groceries if those don't end up changing much. So like, gas is a necessity for most Americans.
Yeah.
So then that money going back in their pockets, that transforms the whole economy.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. I'm really interested in this Doge effort that they're putting out.
Yeah.
It's establishing and implementing a president's Department of Government Efficiency. And I think that's something that really we all, whether it's just from a family standpoint or our business, should all have a Doge department. Yeah. The efficiency at times, specifically when you get so big like our government has,
there just ends up being bloat.
Yeah, there's a lot of waste, and sometimes you have to decide, okay, we need to invest in things, but how much do we want to invest?
Yep.
And knowing that we may be just flushing money, down the toilet, whereas like we're talking about the vehicle production, it's like we have so many of these vehicles that are in the market right now that are probably throwaway vehicles, 100,000 mile vehicles, and at that point you're back to cash for clunkers, and they're junk, and there's no resale value in them. And I don't think that's good for the economy as a whole. There needs to be a new market and a used market, because there's people that are at different buying levels in their lives. And so, I think just thinking about just the efficiencies in general, you go and buy a used, I have a friend that was talking about buying a used Tesla, and I'm like, you might really want to do your research. Like, Teslas are cool, I think, for a certain purpose, but you've got a family, you're going to take family trips. Is that the vehicle, you want to be strapped to take family trips? And then, thinking about the extra time that it takes, that you have to plan out for a family trip, because, you can't just roll off any freeway exit and charge, unfortunately, now.
Well, and what's the lifespan of the batteries and the motors and that?
Bingo.
Like, that's
and you're buying it used. How much money? Where's the battery life at?
Yeah, is the car worth less than replacing the batteries would be?
Yep.
Like, that's,
and I think that's a serious question.
Absolutely.
That has to be asked.
Yeah, and that's one of the biggest problems with EVs is that maintenance cost.
Yep.
And then once that is figured out, that maintenance cost, also what does like repurposing that, entail?
Yeah.
Like if it isn't efficient, okay, so now there's this big hunk of batteries sitting in this car that nobody's going to replace because they would be out of their minds for the cost between labor and material cost.
And what are we doing with these batteries once you rip them out? Like, at least with a car, and we do this in our daily. This is back to the Doge and the efficiency, right? You have a lot of materials that we're using day to day in business, and there's a process. There's certain things. Cardboard can be recycled. Obviously we recycle all of our used oil and chemicals, basically your coolants, your engine oil, so on and so forth. Like all that stuff can be recycled. And then you start thinking about like an engine or a transmission, they fail. Well, pretty much every transmission out there can, unless something catastrophic happens, to the case, the internals can be rebuilt. Right. So you've got the ability to reuse and recycle. Same thing with most of the engines. But if that's not the case, let's say worst case scenario, that's not the case, now they can go to a facility, a recycling facility, which is a whole nother livelihood for people. You've created jobs off of that. Right. That those products specifically can be melted down and recycled and then reused back in the market. And it's not a labor intensive process. Yep. Or a health, a major health risk, so on and so forth, where with these batteries, there's a whole... the emissions piece from trying to recycle them, the hazard of them, the crashed EVs, they burn at the crash site, they wait for them to die, they tow them off, they get stuck in a junkyard, they catch fire in the junkyard, and they burn, and they burn, and they burn, and they burn. How do you recycle that? Yeah. I mean, what are the options? That's back to the why, right? I'm sure if we switch to all EVs, what is the fallout from that versus... Yep. And I'm sure that there are ways to recycle it. But again, it comes back to the money piece. Yeah. Is it worth trying? Because the places recycling, they have to recoup their money. Right. You can recoup your money recycling a motor because it's blown up, it's not of use to somebody, breaking that back down into metal and selling that to another manufacturer. Like, it can be purified when it's melted down, so on and so forth. The cobalt and different things in those batteries, like once it's worn out, is it no longer worth that? I don't know. I'm sure there's answers somewhere, but even then, it's all about the money. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I got up to check the camera here to make sure it wasn't overheating after our debacle last episode, and Kyle and I just kept talking, and we shouldn't have done that, but we were talking about EVs and how they tend to have less unique features than combustion vehicles surrounding the motor and the transmission and things like that will make the vehicles behave differently. Mustangs have a V8, some cars have little turbo 4-cylinders, Lamborghinis have V12, so you have a wide range of behaviors and sounds and things with combustion cars that you typically don't get with EVs, and we go into talking about how some different EVs are trying to do that and how those are starting to see some success in the market.
Okay, this is a new vehicle coming out. It's got maybe a motor or transmission that you really love or want. The specs are what make it desirable. We're kind of getting away from that with the EV stuff because they haven't put a lot of time and energy into any of that stuff because they're trying to get these vehicles just to function right. Yeah. Well, and that's where I think the Ioniq 5N. Yeah, that's what it is. That's where I think the differentiation is on that car for me. Like, they've made it specifically for an enthusiast that wants a practical EV. Yeah. Like, the design language is aggressive. It has fake gears. Sure. But I've watched multiple different YouTube channels review it, and they've all had nothing but good things to say about it. Okay. There's definitely shortcomings, but they all at the end are like, yeah, if I was going to buy an EV, this would be the one. I just don't know that I can get to $66,000. No, exactly. On something like that yet. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, for EV buyers, you got to have a big budget.
unless you're getting a Model 3, but even then that's 30-something thousand.
Yeah.
Volkswagen, they've talked about their ID3, I think is what it is. It's the size of a Polo. We don't get the Polo in the US, but the interior of it is the size of a Golf. But it's in like the $20,000 range. And I was like, once EVs that are decent get in that range, that's, I think, when they really break.
Do you know what
market.
was before the Golf?
The Rabbit.
The Rabbit.
Yeah.
Yep, the Rabbit.
I don't know why it took me so long because they called it the Rabbit. They brought back the Rabbit for the 5th generation of the Golf. They called it the Rabbit again.
Yeah, the Rabbit was pretty popular here. Here's a question. Maybe there's one out there. I just can't think of one. But we've got all of these iconic movies and TV shows that we kind of skimmed across that are centered around whether it's a single car or, you know, a car topic in general. You know, thinking about Ford versus Ferrari, that was an awesome movie.
My dad loves that one. I think he's probably watched that about 15 times.
Yeah, that's a phenomenal movie.
It's his like comfort movie.
You know, obviously the Cars series, the Fast and Furious series. I forgot to mention Back to the Future. That was not really, you know, it wasn't so much about the car, but it was about the car for me.
Yeah, I mean, it was centered around this crazy looking, unfortunately for DeLorean, they couldn't really capitalize on it. Yeah. But like people loved the DeLorean because it was so different.
Yep. You know, we talked about Gone in 60 Seconds. Gran Turismo came out recently, started as a video game.
Yeah, it wasn't a bad movie. I thought it was a pretty decent movie.
Thinking about a car movie that you don't really think about the car so much, but it was a car movie, was Baby Driver.
Yep, with the WRX.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah.
The Italian Job.
Classic.
Yep.
Yep.
You know, there's so many of them.
Smokey and the Bandit.
Yeah, Smokey and the Bandit was phenomenal.
Yep.
Talladega Nights.
Yeah, you can't talk about car movies and not talk about Talladega Nights. Shake and Bake.
I got a message for all of them, right? Shake and bake.
What does that do? Did that blow your mind? That just happened.
Shake and bake.
Yeah. What?
Shake and bake.
Hold on.
Shake and bake. Yeah.
What does that mean?
It makes no sense. So it's shake and bake. It's nonsense.
Yep. You know, before that, you had, which I never, you know, really got into, but like the, you're gonna have to cut this part out because I'm struggling.
It's staying in now.
I'm struggling. Shoot.
Say there was the Bond. Is that what you're thinking?
No.
Bond always had the
he did always
Aston
have.
Martins.
Yeah, he did always have those cars, didn't he?
There's been some modern movies that I think Land Rover and Range Rover have paid to be the villain vehicle, like fleet.
Oh, interesting.
I've seen them in quite a few movies. Those are like the bad guy cars, or like the new Defenders and the Range Rover, you know. So that's another niche too, is like what's the kind of like bad looking cars in some of those movies too, that like people see those and like, oh, those are cool, but it's not the protagonist car. Like there's some manufacturers that have tried for that. Audi was in all of the Iron Man movies.
Yeah.
They had the R8 concept, I think. They had some EV concepts in there. Like Audi was throwing concepts in those Iron Man movies.
Yeah, that's interesting. You're right. Think about Seinfeld. Seinfeld, I think, was one of the first shows that did, and now they may have a different name for this, but like some subliminal marketing where they would have like cereal boxes and stuff like that, you know, in the scenes. And they were real big, and you know, I think we brought this up last time. Jerry Seinfeld being a big car guy.
Yep.
But I always thought it was interesting that his a lot of those episodes revolved around Volvo.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, Saab. Was it Volvo or Saab?
I never watched
I can't remember.
Before my time, and plenty of my generation have watched it. I have not. I've had no interest in watching it.
I can't remember. It was one of the two. But anyway, it's interesting. Like, you think about some of these shows.
Yeah.
And you're right. It's not always like the cool car. Maybe it's the, they're trying to make, get their branding out there, their name out there.
Oh man, Herbie.
Oh, I forgot about that.
I just went to the images part and saw that. I was like, oh man, little me loved the Herbie because it was just so goofy.
That was
the goofy
goofy
looking car, all the different like emotions that a car showed. That was kind of like Cars before Cars.
It kind of was.
It was a personified car.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we had a lot of cars that came to life. Herbie obviously being one of them, and then Kit from Knight Rider, probably the coolest one that came to life, I think.
Yeah, I did watch that one. That one was on Netflix when I was in like middle school.
Yeah,
we would watch it as a family.
Nice. Yeah. See, I mean, we're obviously skimming from the 80s to current. Probably the most recent, just the most recent automotive movie that I think is the best for me is definitely Ford versus Ferrari. I think that one.
Yeah, I mean the acting, the visuals, the storytelling, like they nailed every part of it. Like it was a very well made movie that was surrounded about the cars, like being able to see Carroll Shelby, want that and work with Ford to get, a race car with his guy. And obviously it's been dramatized a little bit, but
yeah, really cool story though. Just kind of thinking back to the American dream and, wanting to win races and kind of what was built out of that.
Yeah.
It's pretty iconic.
Man, as I'm scrolling through, Barbie just showed up with the Corvette, the Barbie Corvette. Well, that's like toys and things, the Transformers movies.
Yeah.
Those were big too. The Bumblebee Camaro, like Chevy made the Bumblebee.
Yeah, you
Camaro.
have quite the Hot Wheels collection.
Yeah, it's
grew up with that.
I've tried to slow down. I've got too many little metal cars and cardboard boxes.
I don't remember what these were called, but have you ever come across, or maybe you have some of these Hot Wheels cars that you'd crash into the side and the door would flip and it would show it wrecked? Do you remember seeing any of those?
There's some vague memory, maybe. I have. They made so many weird special edition Hot Wheels. I had ones that would change color if you put them in hot water or cold water.
I had some of those.
I've got an old like funny car one that's all metal. Like they don't even make the like all metal cars anymore.
Yep.
I was going through some of my old collection. Like I've got some old stuff. I've got like an old like U.S. Postal Service one that from like the 70s or something. It's all beat up, but it's all metal and it's heavy. Like,
yeah, those were some of my favorite toys. I'd have this bag of Hot Wheels I'd carry around with me everywhere, but a couple of them, it was just like you'd rotate it and it would relatch and like reset. And it would look like a normal car. Yeah. And then as soon as you crashed into it, that latch would like release and it would flip and it would look like it was crushed. The door was crushed in. Yeah. It was so cool. I'll have to see if I can find them. But I'm restarting my.
I think I'm only seeing collection. Like one. I think it says 83 on it.
Yep, it's about that time frame.
Yeah, it was Hot Wheels Crashers.
Yep,
found one. It's on eBay, I think. Let's see.
What's it going for?
I don't know. It's it's on a upjmall.info. $46.
$46.
It's on sale from $115.
Whew. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, looks like they bought them back at one point. Yeah, I've spent a bit too much money on my Hot Wheels collection. I'll be the first to admit. I've got a Hot Wheels wall because it's my childhood bedroom. I'm still living at home because housing is too dang expensive.
Yeah, it is.
So I have a bedroom chock full of things that have been in there for over a decade. Look, and I've got a wall of Hot Wheels up.
Stay there as long as you can and just bank that money.
Yeah, I've got one of my buddies in elementary school, when Cars came out, his dad from the movie theater got the Cars movie, like big cardboard 3D
nice.
things. I've got one of those sitting in the top of my bedroom.
Nice.
And I've got like old car parts in there. I have like a grill for my first car, my Dodge Charger. I put a honeycomb grill in and took the old one out, and it's like, why it's in there, I don't know, but it's been there for so long. I'm not moving it.
Yeah.
I've got posters. I've got pictures. I've got a big Michigan flag.
I'll take that down. Burn that thing.
Hey,
Nobody wants to see that.
we did what we needed to do this year.
Except didn't win a national championship.
We were never going
Oh,
to.
and I found a shirt I need to get you.
Is it the one where it says Ohio State won every game, and then they didn't? There's one of those that's going around. They won.
It's the one that says we won a national championship without an asterisk.
Right. Yeah. No Big Ten championship, no undefeated
No,
season,
without an
2
asterisk,
losses.
as in we didn't have somebody stealing everybody else's signs so we could win.
Yeah, and all of the games that we played before that was suspected.
It's all right.
Were all the cupcakes, and then they were like, "Hey, you're doing this." And
It's
then,
all right.
Hey,
Look,
Ohio State had time to
Ohio
change their
State needs
signals.
Michigan to be strong.
Michigan State could change all their signals. All those teams changed their signals, and
Yeah,
we still won.
that's all right.
And
There's always next year for you guys.
the big hammer that was supposed to come down for the cheating. Where is it at?
Well,
if there was cheating, there should have been a hammer.
It just costs too much money to swing that hammer sometimes.
Right. No, I mean, if we have a decent quarterback next year,
Which, I mean, you guys are spending a lot of money on one, so...
we got a decent transfer in. I mean, we didn't have a quarterback last year. We had a cancer survivor, a fifth-year, I think he was a fifth-year senior, another like fifth-year senior, and then a quarterback who was a running back.
Yeah.
Anytime he threw, it was an interception, almost guaranteed. So,
There's always next year, as they say.
hey, we won the 2 games that, for a rebuild year, would put a smile on my face.
It's just wild to think that you can go from winning a national championship to barely scraping together enough wins.
Yeah.
But that's
that's
kind of life.
It's keeping, your good players around for culture. We had a lot of good players that stayed Ohio State this year.
Yeah.
Multiple players that have been there for 3 or 4 years that were like, no, we want to stay and get the win. We don't care to go to the NFL and just get our money.
It's kind of crazy to think about all of the chaos that has happened. We're talking about it with the automotive industry, right? And then obviously, new change in office, but thinking about football with the whole portal, NIL deal, all of that has really disrupted.
Yeah, they gotta get somebody in charge of that. It's running wild. It
would be helpful.
In theory, it's good. The athletes that are making millions of dollars for these organizations should be getting money, but it's there's a lot of money going around the top 20 programs for the big sports, and that's where the money's staying.
Yeah.
Like the smaller universities are losing athletes they would have gotten otherwise because they're like, I can get $3 million if I'm just a bench player over here versus starting over here and getting really good draft stock. I'm probably not going to play, or whatever it may be. Like,
yep.
It's a lot of things are all over the place, but that's life.
We're living in bizarro world right now. But
sometimes we might think we're living in the craziest time, and then you look back a few years ago and you're like, man, things are not as crazy, but in some ways they are crazier.
Yeah.
We're not all living at home and working from home and stuck at home for coronavirus, but
that was one of the new mandates that kind of came out is everybody if at all possible, has to go back to work.
Federally, yeah.
Yeah, federally. So, we'll see. Hopefully the world will get back to some sort of normalcy.
Yeah.
Whatever that new normalcy is.
Who knows?
Well, we'll see.
There will be normalcy at Pickups Plus Cars.
There will be some normalcy at Pickups Plus Cars.
No turmoil.
No turmoil. I don't know if I'd go that far.
All right.
Busted knuckles.
Yeah.
The lost 10 millimeter socket that's constantly happening.
Yeah. No turmoil for our customers.
No turmoil for our customers. Yeah. We will strive and work really hard to minimize any turmoil.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, these cool hats, and this new shirt can be purchased on our website.
Yeah, they can.
Did you know that?
I think I did because I put them up there. I put them up there.
I'm excited to get more swag up there.
Yeah.
More gear.
Yeah, I'll put the ducks. We've got some Pickups Plus ducks that have been hiding away. You need a little friend for your Jeep. We've got those. I want to put the stickers up there. So get everything up there.
That'll be cool.
And then if people order, throw a couple stickers in there, maybe a duck, different things.
Couple freebies in there for you. Yeah.
It's always good getting some freebies.
Yeah.
Get your Rock Auto order, get your sticker to put on the toolbox or your magnet.
Yeah, for sure. Well, this has been fun again.
Yeah. I feel like this one was a little more all over the place.
It was all over the place, but
I feel like that's a sign of a good podcast. Just talking.
You can get me talking, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well,
we didn't go down very many rabbit holes,
No.
so we skimmed over the rabbit holes. You guys can go down the rabbit holes if you'd like.
Or tell us if you want us to go deeper down the rabbit hole and talk,
because there's definitely a lot of them.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well, and maybe we'll get a guest on here at some point. And maybe you won't just have to listen to us.
I've got a guest list started, so
I'll have to
we'll talk through that.
Yeah.
Most of the people I have on my list would probably be like, yeah, no, but I can at least put them on a piece of paper in a list form.
Ideas aren't bad. One can dream.
Yeah. So cool.
Calling into episode 1, officially episode 1.
Officially official.
Yep. Like the podcast on YouTube and Spotify. It's on Amazon. We're working on Apple. Apple's being a pain, which I feel like is not abnormal for Apple to kind of be difficult to work with.
Yeah.
But yeah, subscribe, leave her 5 stars.
Hit the bell.
Hit the bell. Yep.
Hit the bell.
Yep. Kyle hit the bell. We'll have to get a little bell. Ding it.
Ding.
Yep. See ya.
Joe Rogan, we're coming for you.
Yeah, right.
Just kidding.